weren't doing quite as much that we could look back at and say it was really sustainable, that we were making investments that we could see 5, 10, 15 years later. So we put that at the centerpiece. We put also at the centerpiece sustainable economic growth. We put at the centerpiece that part of our mission has to be to marry our foreign assistance to a push to drive more private capital into development and work with countries to mobilize the domestic resources they need. Emmy mentioned the Partnership for Growth, which is it is not an initiative, it is not a budget account. It is, and I thank you for using the word innovative, I really think it is. It's a way that we are trying to bring all these tools together and see if we can really do this sustainability piece. We've identified 4 countries wherein a colleague of mine in the interagency jokes, it's really revolutionary. We based our decisions on facts. We did a qualitative and quantitative analysis of whether these countries were well positioned to achieve sustainable growth. We have worked with those 4 governments jointly to diagnose the binding constraints to growth. We have involved every government agency that has a tool to bring to the table. And we are now in the process of developing action plans that are organized around 2 things. What do they need to do and what do we need to do? What are the policy changes that are needed? And how do we invest in that change? By, again, using our assistance, helping mobilize domestic resources, and bringing more private sector capital to the table. We'll see. I can tell you what's different about it so far. First, the cooperation among U.S. government agencies in this, and quite frankly, I will say across the board in implementing this new policy, has been extraordinary. Second, the dialogue between the United States and these 4 governments is not a dialogue between donors and beneficiaries. It's a dialogue between partners who are committed to a common goal. And third, we're finding that there's a lot more that we can bring to the table when we marry all these tools together. Third piece of sustainability has to do with how we do business. If we want to do as much as we can on the development front, we need to do things differently. And there's several elements of that that I just want to mention to you all today. One, and a very important one, is strengthening our U.S. Agency for International Development. Over the years, often because it has been a football in the politics of Washington, sometimes because the importance of development wasn't understood, aid went through a really prolonged period of externally motivated decline. It didn't receive the funding it should have. There were times that it was thought politically expedient to cut its operating expenses. It's kind of hard to run a development agency when you can't operate. And it was, over time, disempowered. I think we've seen in the rebuilding and strengthening of AID remarkable progress. It is becoming a leader across the interagency in bringing data and analysis back to the mix, to introducing, mainstreaming, and institutionalizing innovation, to collaborating with other agencies, and to being back in the game as a modern, robust, and capable development agency. We have more to do, but I will tell you, as somebody who was educated on the working of my government by, my first job in government was working at USAID. It's something I'm very proud of, and it's something that we're absolutely committed to continuing. The other thing is bringing all these other agencies to bear. We have USAID, we have the Millennium Challenge Corporation, we have a Treasury Department that engages with the MDBs, the World Bank and the IMF. We have a Commerce Department. We have OPIC, EXIM, the Trade and Development Agency, the Peace Corps, the Department of Labor, the Department of Health, the Department of Agriculture. All of these agencies, because our economy is indeed global, are somehow engaged in that global economy. And they bring extraordinary tools to the table. I think through the Global Development Policy Committee we established at the President's direction, we are finding ways to bring those things together. We are also finding ways to cooperate more and better with partners. Clear recognition on our part, none of us can do this alone. So what does that mean in terms of collaboration? It means not just coordinating with other donors, but sitting down with other donors at the outset to say, how do we approach problem X or Y together? It means reaching out more and more often to non-traditional donors, some of whom don't bring assistance to the game, they bring technical assistance to the game, but are growing in number and diversity in ways that are extremely powerful. It means collaborating with the private sector, not only as an investor of private capital, but as a part of the development architecture that has unique skills and capabilities. Our foundation community in this country continues to grow and expand its commitment to development, and our NGO community continues to grow, to expand policy heft, and to give us additional tools. So we are working much more deliberately to say at the outset of our approach to a given development challenge, who all needs to be in the room? And what's the division of labor among us? The third thing that I think is most critical about what we're bringing to the mix is a much greater reliance on data, analysis, and facts. I think that development is clearly an aspiration. I think there are a lot of people who still think that's pretty much all that it is. Everybody in this room knows that it's also a discipline. That we know what works, we know what doesn't work, and we can make informed choices. We can go to scale where things work, and we should stop doing those things that don't work. Again, this is one of the things that's hard to see on the outside, but I cannot describe to you the shift in the way we're approaching things in this regard. That meetings and discussions begin with multiple agencies, increasingly in the business of sitting down and saying, here's our objective, and here are the facts. We're building analysis in across the spectrum, and it's really our hope and aspiration that we can really get to the forefront of leading our development efforts with something the President referenced in the policy directive, which is we need to drive our policy with evidence of impact. Ultimately, impact is what it's all about. We are committed as we can be to achieving greater and more sustainable impact. And as I close, I just want to come back to two things. I think on the challenging side, this is a tough moment. There's more demand for development than we've ever seen. The Arab Spring, a growing number of weak and failing states, the additions of climate change and resource scarcity to our understanding of the challenge. We have a global economy that is moving, changing very, very quickly in ways that are positive and negative, and we've got politics. But what we've also got is commitment, knowledge, the players to get the job done, and the people most important who are at the heart of this, ready, able, and willing. So I would like to thank all of you for everything you're doing, restate our commitment to working with you in any way that we can, and just reinforce how important it is to show the government here, the world, the American people, our media, that there is such a well-informed, committed constituency here for development that not only believes it, but is doing it as well as all of you are. So thank you very much. I can take a couple of questions since the time's limited. I'll only take easy, nice ones. And Emmy, I'll just look to you to throw something at me when I need to stop.
My name is Cheboka from Senegal.